Hello, everyone. Thank you to the Bronchiectasis and NTM Association for inviting me today, and thank you all for joining. Let's get started. Here is an overview. Today, we're going to talk about how nutrition is a therapy and supports your body if you're living with bronchiectasis. In part 1, we'll focus on the importance of core nutrients, including protein, which supports your strength and breathing, carbohydrate, which provides essential energy, and fat, which helps with maintaining a healthy weight. In part 2, we'll focus on how to put this information into practice with meal planning in a way that hopefully feels doable and sustainable. Food really is a therapy. It's a tool to support your strength, breathing, energy, immunity, and quality of life. Let's start with protein and the case for making it a priority in your diet. First of all, protein is important for muscle. Muscle can decline with age and disuse. We are all getting older, and if we are sick, we may be less active for periods of time. Both of these things can contribute to muscle loss. It also takes more protein to build muscle as we age. The amount of protein that was good for muscle building when we were 20, 30, or 40 years old is not as good for muscle building later in life, and especially when we are 65 years of age and older, when it takes more protein to have the same effect as it did when we were younger. Secondly, protein is important for lungs. Lungs may be damaged from inflammation and infection and require repair. Protein is important in rebuilding and repairing lung tissue. Breathing is also hard work, and breathing muscles are important because they help you breathe. Protein helps maintain breathing muscles in addition to your body muscles. And lastly, protein is important in the face of illness and inflammation. Illness and inflammation can break down your body protein, sometimes at a rapid rate. The immune system also gets depleted from working so hard, and it needs to be replenished. Protein is the key nutrient that provides the structural building blocks for immune, muscle, and all other cells. In summary, protein in your diet helps you with strength, breathing, fighting infection, and recovery. How much protein do you need? Protein targets are calculated in grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day. The target goes up as you move from being a younger adult to an older adult, and then to being an older adult with a chronic lung condition. As an older adult with lung disease, a target of 1.2 to 1.6 or more grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day is appropriate. Let's look at what that means in real numbers per day. First, find your approximate weight in pounds in the left column. See how it converts to weight in kilograms in the middle column, and then find your corresponding daily protein target per day in the right column. What you'll see is that in general, it is sensible to eat approximately 60 to 90 grams of protein per day to meet your increased needs due to age and lung disease. It's helpful to spread your protein intake evenly across meals rather than front or backloading your day. This maximizes how much protein and muscle you build during the day. Most people eat too little protein at breakfast and sometimes too little at lunch, falling below recommended thresholds, and then they eat too much protein at dinner, sometimes more than the body can use at once. It's better to eat about 20 to 30 grams of protein at each of 3 meals daily, giving your body a steady supply of the building blocks it needs throughout the day. And if 3 full meals aren't realistic, fill the gaps with protein-rich mini meals to keep your intake consistent. So what does that look like? This cheat sheet shows you how to pick proper portions to meet your protein needs. If you eat 2 eggs, for example, that is a good start. With cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, a 1/2 to 3/4 cup is a good portion. With chicken, fish, and meat, 3 to 4 ounces gets you over 20 grams of protein. Plants are also a good source of protein. 1 cup of tofu is at least 12 grams. A 1/4 cup of nuts like almonds is an ounce and contains 6 grams of protein. 2 tablespoons of a nut butter like peanut butter is also 6 grams. Finally, a 1/2 cup of beans is about 6 grams of protein. Now, what can happen if you don't eat enough protein? One key consequence is muscle loss and fatigue. Low protein intake may lead to reduced muscle mass, impaired breathing effort, and an inability to do the daily activities that you love and want to do. It may also be related to frequent exacerbations, including possible increased hospitalizations and emergency visits, and impaired immunity and weakened defenses against infections, which promotes chronic inflammation and additional lung damage. Protein is a key nutrient for people living with bronchiectasis. In summary, protein is important for strength, breathing, immunity, and repair. Keep in mind that none of this matters unless you eat enough calories. Adequate calorie intake allows you to use protein for its vital roles rather than using it for energy. To live life to your fullest and on your own terms, it's essential that you eat enough calories and protein. Next, let's look at carbohydrate and the case for making it a priority in your diet. Carbohydrate these days often gets a bad reputation, but for people living with bronchiectasis, it plays a very important role. First, carbohydrate provides much-needed energy to your body, which is burning through calories due to inflammation and infection, even if you are less active with lung disease. In fact, carbohydrate is your body's preferred energy source. It's easier for your body to use carbohydrate for energy than it is for it to use fat or protein, which means your body doesn't have to work as hard to get energy. That matters because breathing already requires more effort with lung disease. Second, carbohydrate protects protein. When you eat enough carbohydrate, your body can use it for energy so that protein can be used for what it's meant for, maintaining muscle and supporting breathing. When carbohydrate intake is too low, the body can shift and start using some protein for energy, which can contribute to muscle loss over time. Carbohydrate, therefore, helps spare body protein. And third, carbohydrate helps you achieve and maintain a healthy weight. Carbohydrate foods can be more appealing and easier to eat when appetite is low, and they also increase insulin, a storage hormone, which helps with weight restoration. And for people with bronchiectasis, weight matters because better weight means better outcomes. The bottom line is simple. Carbohydrate provides the energy your body needs so that protein can do its job. How much carbohydrate you need depends on your weight and your goals. If you're at a healthy weight, eating a balanced diet with a reasonable amount of carbohydrate is appropriate. You can aim for 1/2 to 1 cup of cooked beans, 3 or more servings of whole grains or starches, 4 cups of non-starchy veggies, and 2 to 3 whole fruits every day. If you're underweight, eating more carbohydrate foods is recommended. Increase your grains and starches to 4 to 6 servings per day or more, and cut back on non-starchy veggies, which are low carb, low calorie, and can fill you up without enough calories. 2 things should be non-negotiable at every meal: protein and starch, no exceptions. Think meat and potatoes, a simple mantra to guide you to hearty food and exactly what your body needs. For example, choose eggs and toast, beans or tofu and rice, chicken or steak and potatoes, or seafood and pasta. If you have high blood sugar, take a smart approach to eating carbohydrate foods. First, moderate your portions. Second, pick the healthiest choices. Those would be the highest fiber or minimally processed carbohydrate foods, which are slowly absorbed. Think rolled or steel-cut oats instead of Cheerios, or think sweet potatoes instead of potato chips. Third, spread them out during the day. And fourth, eat them in the right order at a meal. That would be last. In summary, carbohydrate is important for energy, muscle mass, breathing, and a healthy weight. So let me be clear, carbohydrate is not the problem. If you're living with bronchiectasis, carbohydrate is helpful, especially for maintaining strength and a healthy weight. Carbohydrate foods are easier to eat when you're tired, provide quick energy, and can be combined with protein for balanced meals. Always pair carbohydrate with protein for strength and energy. Finally, let's talk about fat and why it deserves a place of priority in your diet. Fat is probably the most misunderstood nutrient out there, especially for anyone who's spent years being told to avoid it. But the science tells a different story. For starters, certain fats are simply essential to life. Our bodies cannot make them, so we have to get them from food. Beyond that, many fats have powerful anti-inflammatory effects. They're not just life-sustaining, they're life-promoting. Fat is also the most energy-dense fuel we have. It delivers more than twice the calories per bite compared to carbohydrate or protein. That means more nourishment in less food, which matters enormously if your appetite is low, or if eating feels like work, or if meals leave you tired. Think of fat, too, as a kind of protection. It builds the energy reserves your body needs to stay strong and to guard against the frailty that can come with a chronic condition like lung disease. Not surprisingly then, fat also helps you hold on to a healthy weight. It helps you hold on to yourself. To put it simply, fat is essential, anti-inflammatory, and the most concentrated source of energy your body has. That is not a nutrient to fear, it is one to embrace. This slide says it all. Fat really helps. A low-fat meal requires more food to hit the same calorie target. Larger portions, more volume, more effort. But a high-fat meal gets you there with far less. More calories, less food. When your appetite is low, that distinction is everything. Asking someone who doesn't have an appetite to eat large portions simply isn't realistic. It can feel overwhelming, even discouraging. That's where fat becomes a quiet hero. By leaning into foods that are naturally higher in fat, we can increase the calories in a meal without increasing its size. More nourishment, same plate. That is not a small thing. It's a meaningful way to make eating enough or eating more feel possible. So how much fat is okay? Whether you are at a healthy weight, underweight, or have high cholesterol, it is not only safe, but arguably also healthy to eat up to 40% of your calories as fat, approximately 6 servings per day. That is the amount the Mediterranean diet allows. Having said that, for someone with high cholesterol, fat quality does matter. Let's take a closer look at this. From a long-term health perspective, some fats are better choices than others, especially those from plant sources and fish and seafood. These support heart health, brain health, and overall well-being, and include unsaturated fats like avocado, fatty fish like salmon and trout, nuts and nut butters, extra virgin olive oil, and seeds. Saturated fats, on the other hand, that are found in butter, cheese, and other high-fat dairy, coconut, hydrogenated fats, and red and processed meats are less healthy. Bottom line is to focus on quality when possible, but don't let perfection get in the way of nourishment. Sometimes eating less healthy fats is worth it for a more healthy weight. So to be clear, if you're underweight or struggling to maintain your weight, priorities should shift. The most important goal becomes getting enough total energy to support your body. In this situation, the type of fat matters less than making sure you're eating enough overall. And then once your weight is stable and your intake is consistent, then you can fine-tune food quality. Here are some simple ways to add healthy fat to your diet. Drizzle a tablespoon of olive oil on vegetables, grains, or beans to add 120 calories to your diet. Include a quarter cup to a half a cup of nuts or 2 to 4 tablespoons of nut butter with snacks to add 150 to 250 calories to your diet. Add a half an avocado or a half to a quarter cup of guacamole to meals to add 100 calories or more to your diet. Use full-fat dairy or plant-based alternatives to add about 50 extra calories to your diet. And blend smoothies with nut butters or seeds. You don't need to overhaul your diet. Small additions can significantly increase your calorie intake without adding much volume. Fat really does help you get the energy you need, even when eating is difficult. So what does fat actually do for you? Let's break it down. First, certain fats are essential, meaning your body cannot produce them on its own. You have to eat them. And beyond being necessary for survival, many fats actively fight inflammation, making them genuinely protective. Second, fat is your most concentrated source of energy, and it builds reserves. Think of those reserves as a buffer, something your body can rely on when illness, stress, or a rough patch make eating harder. And third, all that energy helps prevent unwanted weight loss. For anyone managing a chronic condition, holding on to weight and muscle is more than vanity. It's resilience. So let's put it all together. Protein is your body's builder. It maintains muscle, supports your breathing muscles, and keeps your body functioning the way it should. Carbohydrates are your body's preferred fuel, quick energy that spares your protein for the important work while also helping to support a healthy weight. And fat is your reserve, a concentrated energy source that protects against unwanted weight loss and keeps you nourished even when your appetite is low. Each nutrient has a distinct role, and for people living with bronchiectasis, none of them work in isolation. They work as a team, supporting your strength, your breathing, your immunity, and your overall health. Thank you. This concludes part 1 of the presentation. Welcome to my kitchen and to part 2 of today's presentation on meal planning. Everyone always wants to know, what should I eat? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get started with breakfast. A great and easy go-to is a grain bowl like oatmeal. It doesn't have to be oatmeal though. You could pick brown rice, you could pick buckwheat, you could do rye, you could do wheat, you could do a mix of those grains and call it your jet fuel, which is what gets you going in the morning. You could also get creative with it and do an oatmeal bake instead of a hot bowl. You could make it cold and do overnight oats. You could use seeds either with the oatmeal or by themselves and do an overnight oatmeal with chia seeds or just a chia seed yogurt, which is like a pudding. Here's an oatmeal bowl. It's made from 3 tablespoons of steel-cut oats, which is high in fiber. So that means it's better for blood sugar control compared to a breakfast cereal like Cheerios. It's good for cholesterol lowering, and it's good for your gut. Some of those fibers are prebiotic fibers, which help feed your good probiotic gut microbes for gut health. And there's good plant protein, about 3.5 grams of plant protein in 3 tablespoons of steel-cut oats. If you prefer quick cooking oats, that is okay, especially if convenience is important. And also if you're looking to gain weight, the quick cooking oats are more rapidly absorbed, and those actually help promote weight restoration. On top of the oatmeal, there's cinnamon and nutmeg, 2 of my favorite spices, but you could pick cardamom or ginger or pumpkin pie spice. And we want that because we're not adding a lot of added sugar, so the spice can actually add just natural sweetness. But the spice adds something else too, and that's bioactive ingredients or bioactives. These are biologically active compounds in our bodies that are good for our health. So we're looking to add spices and seasonings, whether they're dried or fresh, to all of our meals. I also have some ground flax, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, and I pick ground so it's better because it's better digested. There's whole hemp seeds, and those are good because of texture, because of taste, but also because they contain the healthy and essential plant-based omega-3 fat alpha-linolenic acid, which is good for our heart, it's good for our brains, it's anti-inflammatory. And we want to get enough essential omega-3 fats every day. There's also good fiber in the flax seeds, and there's plant protein, about 2 to 3 grams, depending on how much you use. Additionally, I have nuts here, so you can see walnuts, and I will usually pick walnuts or pecans to go with oatmeal because I like the taste. But also, the nuts, more so than the seeds, are high in the essential plant-based omega-3 fat alpha-linolenic acid, and we want to get enough of that every day. There's also good polyunsaturated fats in the nuts, and those are anti-inflammatory and they're good for our heart health. And then there's plant protein in here. So there's 6 grams of plant protein per ounce of the nuts. And then we've added a small 1/3 of a cup of Greek yogurt here. It's plain, it's non-fat, and it's adding not a big volume, but it's adding 8 grams of extra protein. It's adding some probiotics for our gut health. It's adding calcium and potassium, and it's relatively low in carbohydrate. So all in, we have about 400 to 450 calories. We have 20 grams of protein coming from the 3.5 grams from the steel-cut oats, the 2 to 3 grams from the seeds, the 6 grams from the nuts, and the 8 grams from the yogurt. If you want to make this higher calorie, you can use more nuts, you can use more seeds, you can use a full-fat yogurt, or you can drizzle it with a tablespoon of honey and maple syrup. If you need to go lower carbohydrate, you can use less oatmeal. If you need to go lower calorie, you can use less oatmeal, you could use less nuts, and then make up for some of the protein losses there with a little more yogurt, which will get you the protein without as many calories. This is another great way to do oatmeal for breakfast. We're starting with a single serve of Greek yogurt. This is 2/3 of a cup of a plain non-fat Greek yogurt. It has 100 calories and 16 to 18 grams of protein. You can get more calories from full-fat yogurt. You would get 140 calories out of the same amount of full-fat Greek yogurt. If you want dairy-free, I suggest soy because it's a good quality protein and it's high in protein. Add to that a lovely muesli. In this little portion, you're getting 240 to 280 calories and 8 grams of protein. You could do a granola instead. You could also do a grain-free granola if you need lower carbohydrate. Between these two, you can be over 400 calories and 20 grams of protein. And if you want to add to this, of course, you could add more of your own nuts. Add some pecans or walnuts or other nuts. You could add cinnamon, nutmeg, your spice, and you can add your drizzle of honey and maple syrup. So there's other great breakfast ideas. You can do avocado toast. So think 1 or 2 slices of a really good, thick, whole grain bread with avocado slices or mashed avocado. Put boiled egg on it or smoked salmon. Put some leafy greens. Put some red onions. Top it with sesame seeds or even a vinaigrette if you want. You could also do eggs. So you can do just scrambled eggs with roasted tomatoes and a side of kale and mushrooms with toast or potatoes. Or you could do an egg white veggie omelet. That's one of my favorites. So saute up some vegetables to get some nice healthy fats in there. Add the egg whites maybe with a 1/2 ounce of Parmesan cheese. And you have a wonderful protein-packed breakfast. You could also do a tofu scramble, and you could do that with egg whites or with eggs or without, and just vegetables, and then some type of starch on the side. You could also do a healthy huevos. So think eggs, think beans. You could also do a quick bread, blueberry muffin or banana bread or something like that. Put a couple tablespoons of peanut butter on it, and then add some Greek yogurt for another protein boost and extra calories. So for main meals, always think protein paired with starch and use that as a guide for meal planning. We want you to pick a good portion of a protein food and pair that with a good portion of starch, and then balance your plate with other vegetables, with healthy fats, and with spices and seasonings. Today, I'm going to cover some options. I'm going to start with roast chicken because that is so convenient and so versatile, and a lot of times we just don't have a lot of energy or time to prepare food. We'll include beans, and we'll look at options for fish and seafood and include tofu. So we have some animal-based and plant-based options. And these things apply to whether you are cooking at home or you are going out to eat or you're looking for takeout or you're asking friends and or family to help prepare meals for you. Use what we talk about today as a template for whenever you eat. Here is a good plate with rotisserie chicken. What I have here is 3 ounces of sliced rotisserie chicken. It turns out that it's about half of a breast, and I've seasoned it with herbe de Provence. It's an Italian seasoning that I like. Since chicken is so lean, this portion is going to give you close to 25 grams of protein, which is great. And we've paired that here with a sweet potato, maybe the size of a medium sweet potato. And that's good starch. It's also full of beta carotene, which is an antioxidant, and there's good soluble fiber in there for your gut and your heart health. And then we've paired it with steamed baby broccoli. And this whole thing can come together very quickly. If you buy the rotisserie chicken, make the sweet potato beforehand. I use a pressure cooker, so hands-free cooking cooks 2 or 3 giant sweet potatoes in very little time, and then I can store them in the refrigerator in order to serve and reheat. And steaming the broccoli takes no time. So this is a good standard plate. If you need to boost the calories on this, then I wouldn't hesitate to recommend some other flavorful additions. You can get a chimichurri sauce, put that on the chicken. You can get a pesto or a tzatziki sauce, which is a yogurt sauce that usually contains mint or dill and or cucumber. You could get a lemon tahini sauce. All of those are going to be oil-based, or in the case of the tahini, it's sesame-based, but there's good oils in there. And the oils are going to carry 100, 200 extra calories for you. You can also drizzle olive oil, maybe a tablespoon of olive oil, onto your potato and your broccoli to add another 120 calories. You can also increase the portion sizes, particularly of the chicken and the potatoes. And if needed, decrease the broccoli if that's taking up too much space when you eat. There are a lot of other things you can do with rotisserie chicken. So for a healthy meal, you can take that same rotisserie chicken and put it on a big bed of salad greens that has some added cottage cheese to it for extra protein, and put your potatoes on there, or use another grain. Maybe do barley or brown rice, maybe do farro or quinoa, and stir in some pesto into that grain to get some extra flavor and healthy fat. On the side, you could add some crackers with avocado if you want nice crunch and a nice way to round out that healthy meal. You can also do a nice bowl with it. Think of like a Mexican bowl. So you can take shredded rotisserie chicken, put some olive oil and fresh lime juice on it, let it sit in the fridge and marinate. Get a can of no salt added black beans, drain it, put some oil, cumin, coriander, chili on it, let that sit in the fridge. Cook up some rice in your pressure cooker, hands-free. Get some frozen corn and get some vegetables. There are frozen bell peppers and onions you can get. You can also make your own fajita vegetables and then assemble and reheat when you're ready to eat. The chicken, the beans, the corn, the rice, and your veggies go into your bowl, topped with fresh cilantro, salsa, and or guacamole, and maybe some chips on the side for some extra crunch and calories. You could do the same with chicken tacos. Just do the shredded chicken with refried beans and tacos, and then all of the same fixings. And you can also do chicken salad with it. So you can chop that chicken into chunks, use your mayo dressing that you like, or get creative and buy a green goddess dressing or a lemon tahini dressing and mix up the flavors. As an aside, you can potentially buy chicken salad already pre-prepared in the store. My favorites are the chimichurri chicken salad and the curry chicken salad. You can also do soups or stews with the leftover rotisserie chicken. So think of a ramen bowl where you buy chicken bone broth that is naturally higher in protein, add some shredded chicken, add some noodles or rice, and once that has been boiling and the starch is mostly cooked, add your vegetables at the end. Spinach, carrots, do mushrooms, maybe add a boiled egg to it, put some ginger or garlic in there or other seasoning, maybe a touch of hot sauce, and you have a good hearty meal. Top it with some fresh cilantro. You can also do a white chicken chili, something that's like a stew where you use shredded chicken and white beans or pinto beans, and you add that to a pot that has sauteed onions and poblano peppers and some broth, and you have a stew. And so on the side, you might have cornbread or tortilla chips with that. So there's a lot you can do with rotisserie chicken, and the idea is to lean into things that are easy, nutritious, and taste good. Beans are another great protein source. People are very familiar with hummus and refried beans, so I recommend those as a start. Hummus is made with garbanzo beans and can be eaten with pita bread, pita chips, or crackers. Refried beans are made with black beans and pinto beans, and you can pair those with tortillas or tortilla chips or cornbread or rice. And then pair those foods with vegetables that would go with. Maybe a nice salad with the hummus, maybe fajita vegetables with the refried beans, and add some good fat. So maybe feta cheese and olives with the hummus, and maybe guacamole or avocado with the refried beans. Yeah. Other good ways to do beans would include a marinated bean salad, which can be something as simple as getting cans of no salt added beans, rinsing them, and then putting a vinaigrette on there, either homemade or store-bought, and putting that on salad greens with your side of cottage cheese or maybe a boiled egg and some crackers and avocado on the side. You can also do some really lovely stews with beans. One of my favorites is a creamy white bean stew that is essentially beans with sauteed garlic in oil with an added herb oil. So in the summer, there's such good fresh herbs. So you can take fresh cilantro, fresh chives, fresh basil in equal amounts, put them into a blender with some olive oil and fresh lemon juice, and you have this lovely herb oil. And the wonderful thing about these bean stews with sauces or herb oils like I just described is that they're great for dipping not only vegetables, but a good starch like some crusty bread with olive oil. So you can really carry some calories that way. And you can do other soups and stews with beans, whether it be in a chili, as I mentioned, or maybe a lentil soup or a black bean soup. So use beans as an easy way to get some extra protein, in particular plant-based protein. Fish and seafood are other great protein sources because they contain marine-based omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA, which are known to have potent anti-inflammatory effects and be really good for our brain and our heart health. It's recommended we eat 4 ounces of fish and seafood twice a week to meet our recommended intake of marine-based omega-3 fats. This is one of my easy go-tos for dinner. What I have here is 5 ounces of a farmed Norwegian salmon, which was on sale this week. And I inadvertently cut it bigger than I wanted to, but it is good to eyeball 5 ounces. This is likely about 30 grams of protein on the plate. I cooked it under my broiler for 12 minutes and then finished it in my oven for maybe another 8 minutes. One of the reasons why I love fish and seafood is that it's so easy to cook. Fish in particular, you just put it under the broiler or in the oven or on the grill. There is about a cup of brown rice here, which was made in a pressure cooker, again, hands-free. And we have broccoli, steamed baby broccoli, as the representative green vegetable. It's making another appearance. And so this is a great, easy dinner. To give this more fat, flavor, and calories, I recommend you add toasted sesame oil, and you can drizzle that on the fish, on the rice, and the broccoli, and then add 1 or 2 tablespoons of toasted sesame seeds. It adds just a wonderful sesame flavor, and it's super simple. So other great fish, seafood, and starch combinations include a piece of fish with fresh salsa, mango, pineapple, or corn salsa over a bed of rice and a side of vegetables, or do fish and seafood with pasta. So think shrimp primavera, or mussels, or even oysters. You can do fish tacos, corn tortillas with refried beans and fish with a lovely salsa and some guacamole. And one of my favorite ways to do fish that is great for people looking to add more calories is to broil it or roast it on a bed of citrus, maybe sliced oranges, and then make an oil herb slurry to go on top. So no surprises, I love fresh herbs. And you can take your favorite herbs or the ones that look good or are growing in your garden bed, chives, dill, cilantro, parsley, basil. Mix those with oil, put some lemon in there, touch of honey, and spread that on top of the fish before it goes in to the broiler or roaster, and it is fantastic. It's a little greasy, but that's exactly how we want it because it's carrying so much extra flavor. So lean into fish and seafood as another good way to pair protein with a starch. Finally, let's talk about tofu as a great protein source. So the best thing about tofu is that you can buy one package of tofu. It contains one block of tofu for $1.50, and you can get 50 grams of plant protein from that package. That's 3 servings of 15 grams per serving that costs you 50 cents each. There is nothing like this on the market, as far as I'm aware, in terms of density, in terms of quality, and in terms of affordability. So other good qualities of tofu are that it's super easy to cook with. So that's another reason why I have to mention it. You can eat tofu right out of the package. You can open it, cut it, cube it, and eat it as is on top of the salad, paired with some type of starch. Or you can easily steam it or boil it. You can also air fry it. You can bake it in the oven. You can pan fry it. But very simply, it can go with a very simple prep, meaning as simple as right out of the package or steamed or boiled. And then you can add a sauce in order to really bring it to life. So some of my favorites are miso ginger, made with fresh ginger and miso, which is high in probiotics, teriyaki, ginger scallion, and for those of us who want a little bit more calories, a little bit more flavor in terms of Thai flavor, there is peanut sauce. And that's one of my favorite dishes that I recommend because it's something you can make in big batches. You can get a lot of mileage out of it in terms of calories, and you can put every color of the rainbow on a plate. And it's very easy to assemble, reheat, and serve. This is a crowd pleaser. So on a bed of brown rice, we have steamed carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, and snow peas. And then I have fresh sliced red bell pepper and purple cabbage on top with fresh cilantro and peanuts to top it off. For healthy snacks, no surprises, think about what protein you can pair with a healthy carbohydrate. Cottage cheese or Greek yogurt and mixed berries. Maybe toss in some extra nuts for extra calories. Or do nuts and fresh or dried fruit. Or do a nut butter and fresh fruit. Or do crackers paired with hummus, or paired with smoked salmon or sardines, or even shrimp with lemon and parsley, and then some avocado with that. You could do avocado toast. You could potentially make a mini meal, refried beans, corn chips with some vegetables, or something similar. So really lean into making those pairings to get the most out of your meals and snacks. This concludes part 2 of the presentation. I hope I've given you some pointers for meal planning and you're walking away inspired and with some new ideas. Thanks again for joining.